Okay, Unit 5 team test explained. 8% of certain drugs removed from the body every 15 minutes. 45 milligrams, time 1 p.m., exponential function, T hours is important. So I never realized the old percent off deal. By some of your determinations, 250% off coupons at the store means that you get the item for free. That's not true. All right, so we can't just say that 15 minutes to an hour is 4 times, 8 times 4 is 32. That's not how it works, right? So the percentage tells us our decrease, all right? So that's going to be 1 minus 0.08. So the multiplier ends up being 0.92, okay? Every 15 minutes just tells us it happens 4 times per hour. That's going to be our exponent. So y equals 45, 0.92 to the 4t power. Okay, it's not a compounded problem. All right, calculate the time when 12 milligrams will remain. So we let this equal 12, and we solve. So 12 equals 45, 0.92 to the 4t. Okay, so you divide, so you're going to end up taking the log of both sides. So the log of 12/45 equals the log of 0.92 times 4t, because I can bring that down. Divide by the log of 0.92 and divide by 4. And I'm going to get t equal to, let me grab my calculator. T is going to be equal to 3.96 hours. Now, time of day would be that long after 1 p.m. So I'm going to take that 0.96 times 60, because there's 60 minutes in an hour. Figure out what fraction of the hour that would be, and it ends up being 3 hours and 57 minutes after 1 p.m., which will be 4:57 p.m., roughly speaking. Okay. Let's move on. Translate the log to exponential or vice versa. So no solving here. All right, I noticed some of you were solving these. That's fine. That's great, but it just asks you to translate. All right, so this would say 2 to the x equals 16. This would say x minus 1 equals log base 9 of 81. And this one would say x to the 3rd power equals 5. Remember, the base is the base. Okay, all right, and the log becomes the answer, and the answer becomes the exponent. All right, same thing here. The base is the base, no matter what. The exponent is the answer, and the answer is the log. Okay. Exponential function passes through the point 218, 4, 162, increasing or decreasing. That's increasing. We know that because the y value gets bigger. All right, write the exponential function for this, a, b, dx form. So if we substitute 18 for y and 2 for b, and then we substitute 162 for y and 4 for b, and we solve each of these, we're going to get a by itself by dividing b squared, so 18 over b squared. Over here it's going to be 162 over b4. I set those two equal to each other. I cross multiply and cancel, so I can sort of do that all at once. I end up with 18b squared equals 162. I'm going to divide by 18, divide by 18, so b squared equals 9, which means b is 3. Once you know your b value, you plug it back into one of your originals. So 18 is going to equal a times 3 squared, which means a is going to end up being 2. Don't forget, the original instructions were to write the exponential equation. So your answer is not correct until you've actually written 2 times 3 to the x power. Once you do that, you can always plug this equation into y equals, go to your table, and see if your 2 points show up. If they don't, then obviously you made a mistake somewhere. Use laws of logarithms to simplify first, solve if possible. So the only way we can simplify is if they have the same base. So here there's no base, which means the base is 10, and we're gonna combine them using multiplication. So this will be log of 5 times 2, which is 10. Now it turns out we can solve that because base 10 of 10 equals 1. Anytime the base and the log match, the answer is always 1. Here we have a minus, so we're going to divide them. So log base 3 of 9 divided by 1/27th. But it's poor practice to divide by a fraction. It's actually better to multiply by the reciprocal. So this actually just is the same as log base 3 of 9 times 27, okay, which is 243. And then we solve that if we can, which we can. 3 to what power gives me 243? That is 5. If you don't know that, you could do log of 243 divided by log of 3. Next, we have same base, so we can multiply these because it's addition. So 4 squared is 16 times 2 is 32. This is not one that you'll know in your head because there's no power of 3 to give you 32. We should know it's going to be close to 3 because 3 cubed is 27. All right, but we would actually have to use change of base here to get the answer. Log of 32 divided by log of 3 equals 3.15. You see how we're getting lots of practice at all these different things here, all in the same problem. Last, they don't have the same base, base 2, base 5. They cannot be combined. So we look to simplify them individually first. Log base 2 of 16 is 4. Log base 5 of 25 is 2. If you don't know that, use your change of base. You just got to get used to doing that. Log of 16 over log of 2. There are some that you have to use change of base for, but remember, you can use change of base anytime. 4 plus 2 is 6. Final answer. Right, each problem in y times b to the x plus k form. I don't think we have any plus k's here, but let's take a look at this. Just like when we bring exponents together, we can also separate them. So we just take this 2, this base of 2, we give it to the x, and we give it to the negative 2. So we end up with 2 to the x and 2 to the negative 2. There's a reason we do that, because now we have no variable with this portion of it, which means we can simplify. So 32, 2 to the x doesn't change, but 2 to the negative 2 is 1/4. And since the 1/4 doesn't have an exponent and the 32 doesn't have an exponent, we can combine them. 32 times 1/4 is 8. So this equation simplifies to y equals 8 times 2 to the x. Same thing for this one. The 1/27, that's just kind of hanging for now. All right, but here we can do the 3 and the 2x together, and then the 3 and the minus 5, or the plus 5. It's a plus 5. So we end up with 3 to the 2x, and we end up with 3 to the 5th. Again, because we know 3 to the 5th, we can do that. That's 243. 243 doesn't have an exponent, which means it can combine with the 1/27th. All right. The 3 to the 2x, I actually grouped that differently because I know what 3 squared is. 3 squared is 9. I'm allowed to do that. And then 1/27th and 243 makes 9. So 9 times 9 to the x ends up being my simplified version, which does look simpler than this big, long original problem. Number 6, solve for x. Here we're just using any strategy possible. Sometimes it might be in log form, and log form is not what's best for it. So we need to switch it back. So in this particular case, log base 5 of x, that's no good. So we want to change this back to exponential form. So 5 is the base, the answer becomes the exponent, okay, and the log becomes the answer. So now we do 5 to the 2.5 power. You're going to need a calculator for that. It's going to give you 55, all right, 0.9 equals x. And then you can always plug this in to check your answer. Over here, same thing. The x is inside the log. That's no good. So we're going to change this out of log. So 2, all right, answer becomes the exponent to the 4th equals x plus 6. 2 to the 4th is 16 equals x plus 6, which means x is 10. So there's your team test explained.